Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books. And if you have joined my channel in the last 2 years, then you're probably wondering why I'm standing in the kitchen. But if you have been with this channel since the very beginning days, you'll probably know what's up. I have a series called Recipe and Review. And that is where when I'm reading a book, I notice that they talk about a food item. And so then I come into my kitchen and I make that food item while we talk about the book. And I haven't been able to do this series for quite a while because it takes a long time to shoot these videos. I have some free time right now, so I'm working on catching them up. And so today we're going to talk about the book Yerba Buena, and I'm going to teach you how to make gumbo. Gumbo is a dish from Louisiana. It's spicy, it's smoky, it's got a lot of soul to it. It is a dish that's comforting even if you've never had it before. There's something about it that reminds you of being in somebody's home and being fed really, really well. It's one of my favorite dishes. Now, I can't claim to be a huge expert on Creole cooking. I have been to New Orleans and I did eat my way through the town while I was there. The way that I've learned to make gumbo comes from my boss. He worked for one of Emeril Lagasse's restaurants here in Las Vegas, and that's how he was taught. And so I've since learned his version of it and then kind of added some twists to make it my own. So if you're watching this video and you are an expert on Creole food, you're from New Orleans or Louisiana, and you're like, hey, we do this different, or that's not the way that I would do it, totally understood. I'm not claiming to make this the most authentic way possible. This is just how I enjoy making it. I think it's pretty approachable for the home cook. If you have big differences in the recipe, drop them in the comments. Let me know politely what you would change or what you think should be different. I'm always interested in hearing how things vary from family to family. And with that, let me tell you a little bit about this book. So Yerba Buena was published May 31st, 2022 by Nina LaCour and Flatiron Press. This was Nina LaCour's adult debut. She previously wrote young adult, and so sometimes that could be an interesting transition. I was a little bit nervous when I heard that in how this book was going to work out. This falls into the literary fiction genre with LGBTQIA themes. Sarah Foster runs away from home at 16, leaving behind her entire messed up world and her ability to trust. Years later, she is a popular bartender in Los Angeles, known for her clever cocktails and her mysterious air. Across the city, Emily Dubois is a 7th-year undergrad working on her 5th major and stuck in a holding pattern. She misses the beauty and the community of her Creole grandparents, but struggles to commit with anything. On a whim, she begins arranging flowers for a really trendy restaurant called Yerba Buena, and she starts an affair with the married owner of the restaurant. When Sarah meets Emily one morning at Yerba Buena, their connection is immediate. But the damage that both women carry and the choices that they have made pull them apart time and time again. So that's what the book is about, and I'm gonna now read you the section of this book that inspired today's recipe, and then we're gonna talk about the ingredients, the equipment that you need, and we'll get started cooking. And as we cook, I'll talk about the book a little bit more, just so you have an idea of how I felt about it. Emily loved her grandmother, her New Orleans accent, her soft brown skin, the way she lingered on details, her unapologetic regard for beauty, her gold-rimmed stemware and extensive wardrobe, the floor wallpaper in all the rooms of her house. Emily, throughout her years of school, had interviewed Claire for 12 term papers. It was endlessly fascinating to her how her grandparents had been part of a Creole exodus from Louisiana after the war, a small piece of the Great Migration, how they'd done their best to recreate home in South Central Los Angeles, opening barbershops and bakeries and restaurants, holding supper clubs and dances. They were steeped in Catholicism. They danced the second line. They perfected their gumbo and their jambalaya. Their children grew up well versed in their parents' triumphs and their regrets, and a pride in their dislocated culture. But then most of the Creole businesses closed down and their history was fading. So we see some little whispers of that Creole heritage within this book. It's referenced a couple times, but we never get to really experience it in its full glory because this book is set in Los Angeles and Emily is not really involved with her family at this point. But this is a beautiful culture and amazing food. Creole food is some of my favorite in the world, despite my not specializing in it. And so I'm super excited to get this gumbo going today. It's one of my favorite things to make, one of my favorite things to eat. And this is a little bit of a longer, more involved recipe. So this might be something you want to make for a Saturday or Sunday night supper. It's something I recommend doing when you have the time to commit to it. Pour yourself a glass of wine, open a sparkling water, put on your favorite music, and just relax and enjoy the process, because gumbo comes out better when you're not rushing through it. So that being said, let's go ahead and show you the ingredients and the equipment that you'll need, and then we'll get started cooking. So for today's recipe, you're gonna need a pot to cook the gumbo in. You'll need a cutting board and a knife for chopping our veggies, a plate to rest things on, a whisk, and a wooden spoon. In terms of ingredients, I have some chicken breast. You could use boneless, skinless chicken thighs if you prefer. I have some raw andouille sausage. I have shrimp, good quality chicken stock. I have frozen okra just because we don't have good quality fresh okra out here, but you could use fresh or frozen. We have some hot sauce, all-purpose flour, Worcestershire sauce. We have a Cajun spice blend, some Gumbo File, and 2 bay leaves. We have bacon fat, which could be substituted for butter or lard, whichever you prefer. I have a couple bell peppers, onion, garlic, celery, and green onions, and some salt. Usually I would use 2 chicken breasts for my gumbo, but in this case, these are huge, so I'm just gonna use 1 today. I have some bacon fat from earlier today that is in the bottom of this pan. It's getting nice and hot, so we're gonna go ahead and brown our chicken breasts. And while that's browning, we are going to start chopping our vegetables. So as we cut up our vegetables, first we want to start with making sure everything is washed thoroughly, make sure everything is nice and clean. And then we're going to be chopping all of our vegetables into a small dice. This means that they are going to be like a couple centimeters big, nice little pieces. So that way, if you got a spoonful with every single vegetable in it, it wouldn't be like an overwhelming bite. I'm only using a half of my red bell pepper and a half of my green bell pepper because I think that's plenty, but if you prefer more bell peppers in your gumbo, feel free to add the whole of each one. And then we're going to just go ahead and put everything on the same plate because it's all going in the same spot and cooking at the same time. Alright, so you can see our chicken is nice and golden brown. That's exactly what we want. So we're going to set this to the side for a moment. And now we're going to work with our sausage. So I have some fresh andouille sausage here. This is something that I had to pick up from the butcher, but in some stores, like in some areas, you can find this like in the regular aisle. There's 2 types of andouille that you'll find. There's these guys that are raw and flexible, or they'll be like a darker red, and that means that they're already smoked and cooked. If they're already smoked and cooked, just slice them up and throw them in. But in this case, we're gonna break up the casing and we're just gonna crumble up this sausage in there. I feel like that makes the texture kind of nice. So we're just gonna break it up into little pieces. Same thing, just take that casing off right there. So now that our sausage is starting to brown off, we're gonna add all of our veggies. And we wanna get some browning on this too. Now, we don't wanna do this too rapidly. I'm gonna be dropping the heat to like about a medium. And we're gonna let this brown slowly over time. The reason is that if you rush to brown your veggies, you're gonna get this like real bitter, acrid taste. Whereas if you brown them a little bit slowly, juice is released from the veggies and you'll get nice sweet caramelization. So we're gonna do that. And save your veggie plate because once these are cooked, we're gonna put them back on here for a moment. So you can see that our veggies are starting to get a little bit caramely. This is what we're looking for. Also, I just wanna make a note. I've talked about this in other videos, but especially since this series hasn't been back for a while, you get all this stuff that's stuck at the bottom of the pan, right? The bits from the chicken, the bits from the sausage, just the browning in general. When you add your veggies are going to release liquid, and you want to make sure you scrape up the bottom of the pan and make sure that you get all that flavor, all that goodness that's at the bottom of it. The burnt bits at the bottom, the brown stuff, that's called the soup in French. And that is the key to layers of flavor in your food. You want to make sure you do not waste that. Some people get scared of it and they don't want to scrape it up. Scrape it up, mix it in. That is going to help your food be delicious. So now that our veggies are getting kind of brown, we're gonna add our garlic. I got about 8 cloves here. And we're just gonna saute this real quick. We're gonna give them about 30 seconds. We're just gonna cook it until it becomes fragrant. When I say cook till fragrant, it means when the garlic smell becomes really strong, all of a sudden you'll get this big whiff of garlic. And that's how you know to take it off. So I'm getting that smell of garlic right now. So we're gonna pull this off the stove. And we are going to just set all this mix aside. And now we're gonna do the hardest part of making a gumbo. We are gonna make the roux. Now let me tell you, if you need something to drink, you wanna pour yourself a glass of wine, this is the point to do it because the roux takes a while and you gotta be patient with it and you gotta watch it. You can't walk away while you're trying to make your roux. So what a roux is a mix of fats and flour. So in our case, we're doing it with bacon fat today. If you don't have bacon fat available, you could use lard or you could use butter. Butter tends to be like the most common out here on the West Coast, but I really highly suggest if you make bacon regularly at home, get your little container and save all the bacon fat, because honestly it adds so much flavor. You don't need a whole lot of it. So we're gonna get our bacon fat in there, and we're gonna add our all-purpose flour in there, and then we're just gonna stir this all up into a paste. And this is going to be the thickening for our gumbo. So you'll notice that this is going to have kind of a gravy consistency, and that is from this flour batch right here. This is going to cook until it turns like almost a chocolate brown color, and you don't want to rush through that. You could turn the heat up really high and cook it really fast, but then you'd end up with a really bitter, burn tasting roux. So you want to just leave this here on like a medium-ish heat and keep whisking. And it's going to take a little while, but you'll start to smell a toasty smell, and it'll start to get darker and darker and darker. And when we reach that nice chocolate color, then this will be ready to go. So while we are working on our roux and waiting for this to get nice dark brown, which you can see it's already starting to change colors a little bit, we're going to talk about the book. So this book is written with lovely prose. Its strengths really lie in its ability to create a vivid, rich picture. The description of the restaurant and the atmosphere really brought Yerba Buena to life. I could vividly imagine like this being a trendy restaurant in Los Angeles. I'll turn this down just a little bit. I could totally, vividly imagine this being a restaurant in Los Angeles. It seems hip, it seems cool. I also thought that this did a really solid job of showing what a dysfunctional relationship can look like without it being excessively violent. There are communication issues, inability to trust and open up, and ultimately there's a dynamic that makes it impossible for a relationship to function without significant change. We kind of see all of that really illustrated well in Yerba Buena. That said, there's a bit of emotional distance that I felt with the reader to character relationship. Both characters are damaged, and maybe that is a symptom of the damage. Maybe we're never really supposed to feel that close to them, which would be an interesting trick if it was intentional. It also kind of mirrors the emotional distance that is between Emily and Sarah, and one of the reasons that their relationship is struggling to function. At the end of the day, we all know what's going on. We all know what dysfunction exists there, but everyone is watching it happen and feels powerless to stop it. My biggest critique of this book is that the pacing is really slow. In some places, that's really nice because it allows the beautiful prose and the description to shine, but in other places it really starts to feel like it's kind of dragging. This is definitely a story focused on character exploration, and those need a lot of time to develop, for sure, but I think at some points the story started to feel a little bit stagnant. Overall though, I think if you enjoy character explorations, past trauma, complicated relationships, and you like really pretty writing, you might enjoy this book. Just be prepared for a slower pace than usual. So you can see our roux is just about the color that we want it to be. And so we're gonna switch back to our back burner now, because this is my more powerful burner here. And we are going to continue on with the next steps in this recipe. See you in a minute. So our roux is nice and dark now. And so we are going to be adding in all of our seasonings. And we're gonna let those saute, minus the bay leaves. We'll set those to the side just so they don't get all crushed up. So we're gonna whisk that in and give it a minute to get fragrant. And we're gonna switch from the whisk now to a wooden spoon. So we're just gonna let that saute for just a minute so that those spices can get a little toasted. Increase that depth of flavor a little bit. There's so many good spices in this. So on the recipe, which you can find in the description, it says Cajun spice blend. So you can either make your own Cajun spice blend, or you can just buy a pre-made one. If you're buying a pre-made Cajun spice blend, just be aware that some of the blends add salt, and so you may have to adjust your salt a little more cautiously if you're using a pre-made mix. So now that this spice is toasted, we're gonna return our sausage and veggies to the pan, and make sure you get all that juice and everything, because flavor. Okay, we're just gonna mix all that together. If you hear a kitten meowing in the background, don't mind, we're nursing a kitten right now. So we're gonna add in our chicken stock. Get this all mixed in. Don't be alarmed if it doesn't thicken right away, because this is gonna cook for a good bit, and this will thicken plenty over that time. You're also gonna want your stock to be at room temperature, just because if you use cold stock, this roux is gonna seize up, and you're gonna have to use a whole lot more stock to get it to the texture you want. So now we're just gonna hit it with some hot sauce. I have a pepper sauce that's a Louisiana style. Tabasco works just fine, or if you have another Louisiana sauce, that's fine. Add a little bit in there. And then we're gonna add some Worcestershire sauce. And we're gonna pop those bay leaves in. Just get those stirred around a little bit. See how quickly that's starting to thicken up already. And most importantly, we're gonna take our chicken breasts and pop that in there as well and let that simmer. So now this is gonna cook on low heat for about an hour and a half, or until this chicken is shreddable with a fork. So, you know, same thing, we're gonna do some movie magic here. You'll see it in a little bit, but you wanna make sure you're coming over and stirring it. If it starts to get too thick like this, you might have to add just a little bit more stock, which I'm gonna do here in just a second. But just keep an eye on it. You wanna stir it every maybe 10-15 minutes so that the bottom doesn't scorch. Okay, be back soon. So you can see that our gumbo has thickened up nicely. It looks really rich and delicious. So we're gonna pull out this chicken breast now, and we are going to go ahead and shred it up. I'm just gonna take that and let some of this goodness drip off. And then we're gonna take this and put it on our cutting board. We're just gonna take 2 knives, and look how that breaks apart like that. That's exactly what we're looking for, is nice shreddable chicken. If you wanted to, you could dice your chicken instead, but I kind of like the texture of the shredded chicken and then the crumbled sausage. And we're gonna add shrimp here in a minute and some okra. Man, my mouth is watering just trying to talk about this. Honestly, I'm so excited for dinner. So that's shredding up nice. And again, if you don't like chicken breasts, it would be totally fine to do this with chicken thighs, boneless, skinless chicken thighs as well. That works just fine. All right, this is like a massive chicken breast. Again, like I said, I think in the recipe I put 2 chicken breasts, but I was assuming normal sized chicken breasts, not like these gargantuan ones here. So I think 1 will do just fine here. And while this was cooking, I went ahead and cooked a pot of rice. So when rice pops up, don't be surprised. You're gonna want rice to serve with this. So you're gonna put the chicken back in. Okay, lots of chicken there. All right, so you're just gonna stir that chicken back in. You can see this reduced quite a bit, which is nice. This is nice and thick the way it should be. This is about the texture you want with it. Kind of like a thick gravy. Look at that. So now we're gonna add our okra. I have a whole bag of frozen okra here. As I mentioned, it's hard for us to get good okra here in Las Vegas. So I usually opt for the frozen. But if you have fresh available, that's perfectly fine as well. And we're just gonna throw some in there. Now, the okra, a lot of people have this perception that okra is super slimy. And it does have like this viscousness if it's cooked incorrectly. I personally don't find it to be slimy or to find the texture unappealing. And with gumbo, I feel like okra is really important in there. It gives it the right texture. There's this nice vibrancy and bite from having the pieces of okra in there. Just if you're using these frozen ones, watch out, because sometimes there will be stems in there. Oz really likes okra as well, coming from having grown up in Africa. This is like a common staple over there, and so he really enjoys me putting okra in it. So I'm going a little bit heavier on the okra than you might at home, especially if you're not super used to it, just because we both really enjoy okra in this household. So from this point, we're gonna let this simmer about 10 more minutes. We're gonna check the flavor at that point, see if we need to adjust any of our seasonings, and then we will add our shrimp. And then we're just gonna cook it until the shrimp turns pink. We're not gonna overdo it with the shrimp. And then dinner will be ready. Our gumbo is just about ready. You can see our chicken is all nice and shredded. Our okra is starting to change colors just a little bit. So the last step is to add our shrimp. So we're gonna add that in there. Some people like to add crab meat as well. We're not doing that today. We're gonna just do chicken, shrimp, and sausage. So we're gonna stir that in, and we're not gonna cook this very long now that the shrimp is in it. We just want this to turn pink, honestly. There is nothing worse to me than overcooked shrimp. We're also gonna check the seasoning in just a minute once the shrimp starts to cook, and make sure that our salt's okay, that it doesn't need like a splash of Worcestershire sauce or anything like that. And then once those shrimp are done, it is dinner time, and I'm glad because it is getting late and Oz and I are both really hungry. And we've been smelling this cooking for a couple hours now, so I'm ready to eat. I think he's ready to eat. I think Luna's over here smelling it like, hey, you guys are getting in the way of my dinner too. And you see that they start to turn pink pretty fast. You can already see the color change there. So we're gonna give this like 2 minutes and then we'll adjust the seasoning and eat. So our shrimp have turned pink. That's all we were waiting for. Let's taste our soup here and then check the seasoning. It's pretty good. I think I need just a tiny pinch of salt. So just adjust the salt a little bit. And then I think we are ready to have dinner. So I will see you on the other side of the kitchen in a minute so we can wrap up this video. Plate some of this up. Got all that chicken and shrimp and sausage in there, all that okra. This looks so good. Okay, so we've got our base. We're gonna slide some white rice on top of it. And then we're just gonna hit it with some fresh green onions on top. A little bit of color. And that is our gumbo. So our gumbo is ready. You see we have a big bowl of deliciousness. I'm so excited about it. Again, that was inspired by the book Yerba Buena by LaCour. This is a slow-paced character study on two women in a dysfunctional relationship. If you like really delving deep into character relationships and you love descriptive prose, then you might enjoy this book. And if you like Creole food, give this recipe a try and let me know in the comments how it goes. If you're looking for a written version of this recipe, everything is in the description below. Definitely copy and paste and save it for future reference. So now let's try that first bite. Let's try to get a little bit of everything in there. It's gonna be a big bite, so don't judge me. That is solid. That flavor in the broth, the shrimp are just cooked. Like they're not rubbery or chewy or dry, just melt in your mouth. The sausage has a nice little bit of smoke in it. Yeah, that's what's up. I'm gonna be a very happy camper once I get to devour this bowl. So with that being said, I'm gonna say goodbye for the night. Oz is gonna pop in and give you his first bite. What do you think?
Oh yeah.
Like it?
This is one of my favorite dishes. One of my favorite American dishes.
There you go.
Even though it's like 300 degrees out there, I wouldn't change this for any other meal.
There you have it. It is fiancé approved. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know. Do you enjoy gumbo? Is it a dish you've ever had before? Is it something that you think you might try cooking at home? And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video. And that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.